Welcome to the deep dive. We sift through the sources to pull out what really matters for you.
That's the plan.
And today, we're thinking about you, the learner. You want those insights fast, those aha moments, but without feeling buried in information, right?
Exactly. Clear, structured, efficient.
So, ever feel like you're just swimming in tech buzzwords? Endless feature lists, all the time.
We're going to try and cut through some of that noise today with a deep dive into Xuda. It's a platform promising big things for building and scaling apps.
Yeah, there's quite a bit of material here, features, deployment, the whole ecosystem.
Let's unpack what makes it tick and, what it might actually mean for you.
Okay, so the big picture. Xuda calls itself a state-of-the-art development and deployment platform.
Bit of a mouthful.
It is. But basically, think of it like a toolkit plus the place to run your tools. It combines orchestration, so managing your apps, with a marketplace.
Okay, orchestration and a marketplace, and the main goal. They say it's to help manage, really large-scale applications, making sure they perform well, can scale up easily, and run efficiently.
Right. Performance, scalability, efficiency. The usual suspects, but often hard to nail. And this marketplace you mentioned.
Yeah, the Xuda Marketplace, it seems pretty core. It does two things. Gives you pre-built stuff, components, maybe even whole apps to speed up your own development.
So like building blocks.
Exactly. But it's also a place where developers can actually sell their own creations. So they're trying to build a community, a bit of an economy there.
Interesting. A give and take. Okay, let's dig into the specifics. What's the first thing you encounter? The user dashboard.
Yep. You log in and boom, user dashboard. It organizes everything centrally. You've got sections for Drive, emails, contacts, an AI chatbot, and projects.
Your command center, basically.
Pretty much.
So Drive sounds simple enough. File storage, 15 gigs free.
Yeah, standard cloud storage, decent free tier to get started.
Then emails. They'd call it innovative. Curious what makes it stand out. Maybe some smart features.
Could be. They mention efficient organization. We'd need to see it in action, I guess.
And the AI chatbot. This sounds cool. Free AI assistant, like GPT-4, they say.
Right, built right in. Supposed to help with tasks, answer questions.
Having that integrated directly. That could be genuinely useful, not just a separate tool you have to jump to.
Yeah, imagine asking it coding questions or how do I deploy this right there in your workflow. Could be a real time saver.
Okay, moving on. Projects and instances. They list a lot of similar things under both.
They do. Overview, branding, analytics, instances, drive, plugins, dependencies, backups, version control. The list goes on. User monitor, data management, logs, API, notifications, team, advanced options.
The overlap is striking. What do you make of that? Does it suggest something about the structure?
Well, it suggests consistency, doesn't it? Whether you're looking at a whole project or maybe a smaller isolated instance, you get the same set of management tools.
Right. And things like branding and analytics being there from the start.
Oh.
It shows they're thinking beyond just the code, the whole life cycle.
Exactly. And version control being listed is crucial, Tracking changes, rolling back if needed. Standard best practice, but good to see it clearly listed.
So maybe an instance is like a specific environment within a project, or maybe a standalone test setup.
Could be. Perhaps instances are more lightweight containers for parts of an app or for testing. The similar structure makes managing them uniformly easier, I'd guess.
Now, where does all this run? Let's look at data centers.
Okay, under the hood time. Data centers lists. Overview, usage, analytics, data management, drive, backups, user monitor, resize, power, replication. Lots of infrastructure management tools.
And critically, they mention their global network, US, East and West, Canada, UK, Netherlands, Germany.
Singapore, India, Australia too. That's pretty widespread.
It is. And that geographic spread, plus the mention of data replication, that's key for a couple of things.
Low latency, right. Faster access for users everywhere.
Yeah, that's one. But also regional compliance. Keeping data within certain borders if regulations require it. Replication helps achieve both. Makes sense. Okay, so you've built your thing, you've got the infrastructure. How do you get it out there? Deployments.
And boy, do they offer options. It's a long list. Preview, link, embed, PWA, iOS app, Android app, Windows app, Linux app, macOS app.
Hold on. PWA and native mobile and desktop apps, all from the same platform.
Seems so. That's pretty comprehensive. Plus cron for scheduled jobs, API endpoints, user groups for restricted access, router, node, emitter. Lots of backend and specific deployment types, too.
That PWA, Progressive Web App, and native app support is huge for cross-platform reach. Build once, deploy almost anywhere. And that user group deployment password-protected apps, useful for internal stuff or betas.
Definitely. The variety here is impressive. It really speaks to that goal of being a broad platform.
Okay, and underpinning these deployments, you've got hosting options,
Sure.
managed VPS and VPS.
Right. Overview and usage, backups, resize, power, firewall, advanced options, standard VPS management stuff. But what caught my eye was the claim that each deployment runs on a dedicated VPS server. That's a big claim. If true, it means really good isolation. Your app's performance isn't going to be impacted by noisy neighbors.
And better security, presumably. Less chance of cross-contamination if one server has an issue.
Exactly. Resource isolation and security are the big benefits of dedicated servers.
Okay, now for the really interesting part for many developers, the studio.
Ah, the build environment. They call it a code-free development environment.
Yeah.
That sounds ambitious.
It does. The list of features within Studio is massive. Programs, components, data sources supporting databases, JSON, CSV, arrays, virtual data, then events, UI elements.
Widgets, icons, panels, assets, a live preview, drag and drop UI, I assume.
Looks like it, but it's not just visual. There's also for loops, scripting capabilities, scope styles, CDN integration, plugins.
Triggers like click, focus, key up, actions for navigation, database calls, calling APIs, UI stuff like alerts, event handlers.
Right, and API integration, calling project APIs, external APIs, system APIs, dataset manipulation. Even mentions JavaScript integration points. And database tables management fields, indexes, import-export, globals, routes, a checker, an AI assistant within the studio.
Share application feature, offline development capability, session management, finder, export-import, console. It's a lot.
Code-cry, code-free seems like the starting point, but the mention of scripting, JavaScript, and API calls suggests you can layer in complexity if you need it.
That's how I read it. You can probably get quite far with the visual tools, drag and drop, configuring events and actions, but if you hit a wall, there seem to be escape hatches to write actual code or logic.
And that integrated AI assistant, again, could be super helpful for someone learning the platform or even experienced devs trying something new. How do I connect this data source? Boom, ask the assistant.
Potentially, yeah. And the offline development, that's a nice touch, not always tethered to the cloud.
Okay, alongside the studio, there's the plugin system.
Right. Categorized into things like DBS for databases, frameworks, graphics, libraries, UI, widgets. These are add-ons to extend the platform's core abilities.
Like adding support for a specific database, say MongoDB, or a UI framework like Tailwind.
Exactly. They list examples like MongoDB and SQL plugins, Tailwind and Ionic UI framework plugins, Firebase core library plugins, calendar and grid widget plugins.
And developers on certain plans can upload and sell their own plugins via the marketplace.
Yep, the agent plan lets you do that, so it feeds back into that ecosystem idea. More plugins mean more flexibility and power for everyone using Xuda.
This really allows users to tailor the platform, doesn't it? Pull in the specific technologies they need, and it connects to the next bit, API integrations.
Yeah, they describe their API as expansive, flexible, and powerful. The goal is clearly to let Xuda talk to everything else in your tech stack.
So beyond just building within Xuda, you can connect it out.
Definitely. They talk about robustness, scalability, customization, interoperability, speeding up development through API calls, automating workflows.
Security is mentioned too, OAuth 2.0, token-based access, standard stuff, but important.
Right. And they even mention possibilities for AML integration via the API. Use cases like dynamically scaling resources based on API triggers, managing user groups programmatically, or building white label systems on top of Xuda.
So it's designed to be a good citizen in a larger network of services, not just a walled garden.
Seems that way. A strong API is pretty much essential these days.
Okay, so we have all these features. Who is this actually for? They explore industries and use cases, right?
They do. Industries mentioned include software development, obviously, streamlining building and scaling, enterprise IT focusing on secure local hosting needs.
Mobile and web development hitting that cross-platform capability again. Tech startups may be leveraging the marketplace for pre-built stuff to get going fast.
And even existing app owners suggesting Xuda as a way to modernize legacy applications. So quite a wide net.
It seems like it. And the specific use cases help make it more concrete.
Yeah, they list things like a classical application for local company users, maybe an internal tool, a simple public landing page.
A complex application with server-side jobs and admin app. So back-end processing plus a management interface.
A multi-location application with local user groups, which ties into that global data center network and user management.
An application with testing environment, setting up separate staging areas. Makes sense.
iOS and Android apps with admin console, and a website that integrated multi-channel experience.
An API application just providing data or services to other systems.
Password-protected application with public demo app, like a SaaS product maybe.
Embedded web page with admin app, server-side workflow application, and even a fault-tolerant application.
It really covers the spectrum, doesn't it? From simple websites to complex, distributed, resilient systems. For you, the learner, seeing these examples might spark ideas about where it could fit.
Totally. It moves from abstract features to, oh, I could build that with this.
Mm.
And they have a section specifically on exploring opportunities with Xuda.
Yeah, kind of summing up the potential wins, custom app development, obviously, and maybe selling those apps on the marketplace.
Developing and selling plugins, which we talked about.
Enterprise solutions that secure possibly on-premise deployment for bigger companies. Legacy app modernization.
Cross-platform application development, hitting PWAs, native apps again, API, and workflow automation.
Building those fault-tolerant applications, tapping into industry-specific use cases. They mention retail, education, healthcare, startups needing tailored solutions.
And contributing back, enhancing the plugin ecosystem, or even partnering with Xuda.
It feels like they're outlining multiple paths, whether you want to be a user, a creator, or even a partner.
It paints a picture of more than just software, but a whole potential business ecosystem around the platform. Okay, let's wrap things up by looking at that ecosystem and the support structure,
Right, the Xuda ecosystem, they frame it as a holistic solution covering individuals, employees, organizations. Starts with that lifetime free account.
which gives you the 15 GB drive, the email client, the dashboard.
Yeah, the basics to get you in the door. Then they push the collaboration and communication aspects. Project membership, having everyone on the same platform, the AI chatbot for help, even a built-in messenger.
And some extra productivity apps, cash transfer, task management, notifications.
Seems like it. They're trying to make it a central hub for more than just coding. A digital workspace, almost.
Interesting angle. And what about Xuda Slim?
Yeah, that's described as a lightweight minified runtime. Basically, a smaller, faster core for web development if you don't need the whole platform.
So you can use just a part of it.
Seems so. Accessible via NPM or CDN, easy to integrate. But crucially, there's an upgrade path if you later decide you do need the full Xuda platform. Start small, grow later.
Okay, that's clever. And the marketplace, we've touched on it, but it's for discovering, buying, distributing apps and components. They mentioned a review process.
Yeah, for security and quality assurance, which is good. And one-click installation to make using those marketplace items easy. Plus the monetization angle for developers.
And the actual hosting plans.
Averse VPS options, they say. Economical choices, tailored CPU packages. And across all plans, they promise features like automatic backups, load balancers, security tools, data replication, and a scalable architecture.
So the core infrastructure sounds pretty solid, regardless of the plan level. Then you have the membership plans themselves.
Right. Free, pro, team, agency. These seem geared towards individuals and smaller teams, maybe offering more features, collaboration tools, or monetization options as you go up.
And then the enterprise tiers, T1, T2, T3.
Yeah, for the big players. Likely more customization, higher limits, dedicated resources, and critically, the option for on-premises deployment via an SDK. So you can run Xuda inside your own data center if needed.
That covers a huge range, from free hobbyist to massive enterprise. And finally, support plans.
4 levels: starter, basic email; developer, faster email, tech staff access; business, email chat, quicker resolution; and enterprise, the works. Dedicated experts, phone support, 24/7 monitoring, incident response.
So support scales with your needs and how much you're willing to pay, which is pretty standard.
Exactly. It shows they've thought about supporting users at different scales.
Okay, pulling this all together, Xuda looks, well, really comprehensive. It's trying to be an all-in-one solution for building, deploying, managing, and scaling applications.
It definitely seems that way. The scope is broad, covering everything from a code-free visual builder to complex back-end deployments, native apps, APIs, and a whole ecosystem with a marketplace.
And for you, the learner, listening in, what probably stands out is that potential for faster development, right? Using the studio, maybe the AI assistant, grabbing components from the marketplace.
Yeah, that accessibility seems key. Plus, the flexibility in how you deploy web, PWA, mobile, desktop, and the reassurance that the underlying infrastructure is built to scale if your project takes off. Those seem like major draws.
So thinking about all this,
Mm-hmm.
where do you see a platform like Xuda fitting in? maybe the future of app development generally, or perhaps even in your own projects.
Is it that code-free studio that catches your eye? Or the potential of that plugin ecosystem?
Or maybe just the promise of not having to worry so much about scaling later on.
It's definitely a lot to think about. This deep dive, as always, is just scratching the surface.
Absolutely. The real learning happens when you start exploring yourself. So,
Yeah.
if you have more questions, keep digging. Thanks for joining us on The Deep Dive.